Hey, what's going on, you guys? It's just truly Master of Sack right here, and I hope you guys don't mind the background noise. I have my dog in here who's down below here. He just got a bath, and I have the air on, so that way he can dry up more. So I hope you guys don't mind that noise. I don't know if he's gonna bark or anything, but just know there's my dog in my room because my mom is at the VA, and he's very attached to people, especially people that live in this house. So he needs, you know, someone to be around him at all times. But yeah, so while the whole debacle with History of Power Rangers Dino Charge, don't worry, it will be going up on the 30th. There's no need to do a drive link. It's just that I have to wait until June 30th to upload it again. So it's going to be going up along at the same day of part 2. So part 1 and part 2 will be up on the same day, just so y'all know. All right. Now, while I was thinking about what to upload for this week, because I haven't uploaded anything after Dragon Ball Sunday went and passed. Thought about, I've been going on and off with Legend of Zelda. It's always this Pokemon stuff, and as much as I want to put another playthrough on the channel, I think I'll do that on my Patreon. And by starting this Monday, I'll put me redoing Link's Awakening on the Patreon starting Monday. So expect to see that on Monday. I'll even provide the link to my Patreon again because I took it off. But I want to look into the history of Zelda, because even though I played that Zelda game and I played a little bit of Ocarina, I want to fully get into another genre of gaming other than Pokemon. I've been doing Pokemon to death, and it's time to change it up. So this is going to be the history of Zelda, part 1, by TheGameDirect, The Birth of a Hero. This came out 2014, so I'm late with this. But let's see what he has to say about this, because I am curious about this. So without further ado, let's have a look at what this is going to be. Oh shoot, let me get this right. There we go.
In the landscape of interactive entertainment, there are great games. And then there are terrible games.
Trying to figure out what the heck that was.
There comes a title so revolutionary that not only does it spark an entirely new genre, but it also paves the way for many games that come after it. Most know him as the hero of time, but his adventures are called The Legend of Zelda. Now before we begin, I just want to say I will be following tradition by covering every single title in the franchise, including Zelda spin-offs.
Holy shit!
Oh yeah, you know which ones I'm talking about.
Oh no, those! Oh no! Oh my! Oh my! We're gonna be here for a while. This is gonna be something else. Oh my! Okay, for those of you who don't know, it was another company that made this kind of game. It was terrible. It was for the what was it for? No, not the Famicom. I forget what console it was, but it was for like your computer and whatnot, like a CD video game, and it did not perceive well. It did not. But yeah, let's just keep going.
Oh boy, I'm so hungry I could eat it.
With that said, let's start off by taking a look into the life and mind of the person who created this masterpiece, Shigeru Miyamoto. Born in Kyoto, Japan in 1950,
He is still living to this day.
Miyamoto's childhood was filled with creativity. In elementary school, he spent his free time drawing cartoons, making puppets, and doing puppet shows.
Oh wow!
As he honed his skills, he moved on to create comic books in middle school. In fact, according to Miyamoto himself, he loved drawing comic strips so much that he wished he could get an illness which would put him in a hospital bed so he could draw comics all day long.
Sir, calm down for just a brief second. It ain't that serious. Just take the day off. I take your vacation. If that's the just take a break. You ain't gotta put yourself in the hospital to just make cartoons. Sweet Jesus. I myself, now that I'm gonna be a little home for a while, I'm gonna be doing some more drawing, which I'm thinking about putting out on the Patreon as well. But yeah, just wait till you're well. Do that when you're well. Don't do that when you're sick. Who wants to draw stuff when they're sick? Continue.
Now, if that is an obsession, I don't know what is.
That's an obsession.
After graduating from college, Miyamoto was recruited by Nintendo in 1977 to design board games and toy packaging, and was later moved to design video games. Now let's skip 8 years ahead. After Miyamoto's Donkey Kong hit the arcades, and Nintendo was about to release their Famicom Disk System, Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka was put in charge of creating a launch title for the upcoming console. Taking advantage of the disk system's ability to rewrite data, Miyamoto thought it'd be neat to make a game that allowed two players to create dungeons and then explore each other's creations. A prototype was made, and people who tried it enjoyed the dungeon exploration the most. As a result, Miyamoto and his team settled on creating a land filled with forests and lakes right on top of underground dungeons, which later became Hyrule Field.
Okay.
In an interview, Miyamoto states that much of the Hyrule Field design was inspired by his childhood, where he played in the woods and explored caves, while the Labyrinth Dungeons was inspired by the memory of being lost amid the maze of sliding doors in his family's home. During this time,
you know, I wish I had that kind of childhood where I could slide the doors in my home. You know, I kind of envy, those kids in Japan back in those days, because when you hear about these stories that they used to go outside and pretend to be heroes and all that, I remember when I was a kid, I would just go on a bike and pretend I was riding like a motorcycle, or like I was a Power Ranger, or stuff like that. But I never had that childhood where I went in the woods and I thought I was in a dungeon somewhere. I was fighting monsters and whatnot. Partially because I lived in the hood, so it was like days to go to the park, bike ride, and go on a swing set and pretend you on like a jungle swing or whatnot. I never really experienced where I was really exploring as a kid, like got to explore outside as a kid. Like never really got around to do that. So I really am envious when it comes to these people who were kids that got to grow up and have these inspirations to be these video game character heroes, and just because there was so much grass and stuff around them. Yeah.
Miyamoto and his team was also developing Super Mario, and because Mario was such a linear game, he concluded that Zelda should be the complete opposite. But Miyamoto knew he couldn't just leave the exploration limitless, since that would probably cause people to stop playing once they got lost. Hence, the real challenge was to find the perfect balance. And remember, there was no such thing as an action-adventure game back then, so Miyamoto could only rely on his own intuition, which was pretty impressive.
Wow.
The Legend of Zelda was released in February of 1986 for the Famicom Disk System, and later the NES. Miyamoto had always wanted to name the game The Legend of something, but had trouble deciding on what. Finally, a PR planner suggested Zelda, which was based on the famous author Scott Fitzgerald's wife, Zelda Fitzgerald. Hence, The Legend of Zelda. Upon release,
Really?
the game did spectacular, selling a whopping 6.5 million units while making top lists of all sorts.
Damn.
However, spirits were not always high. Quoting from Miyamoto in an interview, he says, "I remember we were very nervous, since The Legend of Zelda was our first game that forced the players to think what they should do next. We were afraid that the games would be boring because of the new concept." He goes on to express his relief and happiness after knowing that everyone loved it.
Well, I mean,
Following a retrospective tradition, I'll be talking about the story next. But to understand it, we first have to pinpoint exactly where in the timeline The Legend of Zelda is. As you can see here, it all begins with Skyward Sword in the era of creation, then later splits into 3 parallel universes after Ocarina of Time. The adult era is where Link defeats Ganon and is sent back in time, leaving Zelda alone in a world with no hero. The child era is where Link defeats Ganon, gets sent back in time, and starts off with him as a child, warning Zelda of the future, thus preventing Ganon from entering the sacred realm and nullifying the events in Ocarina of Time altogether. And finally, there's an era where Link is defeated by Ganon. With all 3 pieces of the Triforce in hand, he transforms into the Demon King, forcing Zelda and the sages to seal him and the Triforce away. This timeline is where the original Zelda takes place.
okay.
Are you still with me? Well, now with that explained, our story in The Legend of Zelda carries off a number of generations after the events in Link's Awakening. Ganon invades Hyrule and steals the Triforce of Power. Out of fear, Zelda splits her Triforce of Wisdom into 8 pieces and scatters them across the kingdom. She then sends her maid, Impa, to find a person strong enough to defeat Ganon, who of course turns out to be a boy named Link. There was something that surprised many players at the time when they found themselves on a name entry screen shortly after the prologue. Not only was this a new feature thanks to the new save function, but according to Miyamoto, the name Link came from his role as
I want that
commander,
sword and
but
shield
Link
so
is
bad.
you, the player. And interesting enough, Link's character design is inspired by Disney's Peter Pan, in hopes that players could eat.
You know what? I kind of had that. I kind of felt as though he did that for that purpose, because him and Peter Pan had the same coloring, the same kind of outfit, just different. That would make sense. Oh man, that makes sense. And as far as like the stress level, honestly, I do get stressed when I don't figure out what I'm supposed to do next. But at the same time, it's a different feeling because you want to explore as a player in the game. So I don't mind that at all, Miyamoto, at all. Now what else was I about to say? Now covering the timeline, it's very hard to really grasp because you have to understand like where this takes place and what happens and everything, like stuff like this, like because you will see that it splits into 2 once what was it, the Ocarina of Time shows? Yeah, the Ocarina of Time ending, and yeah, it shows that. So you would have to really guess. Not guess, but you have to follow along.
Recognize him. Now, the funny thing is that the roles are switched around. Tinkerbell is silent, but Navi blabbers. Peter Pan talks, but all Link says is, well, you know. As most of you already know, Link is left-handed, but that wasn't always the case. In very early stages of Link's design, he was actually right-handed. The reason for the switch was to ease the creation of pixel art and game screen configuration. Though I don't really really get how that matters. Well, who knows? After playing through
So he's ambidextrous.
I couldn't help but notice how well it
That's the word for it.
Miyamoto is truly a pioneer, and in my opinion, rightfully deserved the title as father of modern video games.
Yeah, I believe, yeah.
Mechanics and the memorable themes, The Legend of Zelda made you feel you were on a quest, fighting monsters that you'd only see in your worst nightmares, and becoming a hero that only happened in your wildest dreams. You can kind of think of this game like the Skyrim of the 80s. After all, Miyamoto's goal with Zelda was to share with players the same adventures he experienced as a child, and ultimately he succeeded. However, there were some major challenges the team had to face during development, most notably the graphic limitations of the disk system and the NES. This boundary made it hard to create different types of enemies. According to Miyamoto, he had to resort to reuse old enemy models by simply inverting them to create new ones. Oh, so that's why some of the sprites look so similar. Now, as highly as this game is praised, I don't think it's perfect. Some of the secret entrances were way too hidden. I mean, you literally had to bomb everything to even have a decent chance at finding the secret to everybody.
But that's the best part of being in the game, figuring out what to do, honestly. That's the best part.
I know there's the random old man here and there that gives you hints, but the poor translation can sometimes lead you into even more confusion. Immediately after the release of The Legend of Zelda, Miyamoto started brainstorming on what the sequel should be. The success of The Legend of Zelda proved to everyone that the new ability to save progress was golden, and that combining storytelling with action was the future. However, Miyamoto decided to change things up a bit. Okay, or a lot. As most of you know, Zelda 2 is side-scrolling, but this wasn't always the case. According to Miyamoto, his initial idea was to have a mix of traditional overhead view and side-scroll view.
Okay.
And of course, there would need to be some sort of screen transition when the views changed. Well, that's when the problems rolled in. The NES couldn't process this change at full speed.
Damn.
It was way too slow.
Damn.
The team had to settle with just side-scrolling.
Damn. That sucks.
Miyamoto expressed his disappointment in Zelda 2 by saying that the games we design start off as a simple draft and evolves as more progress is made. In the case of Zelda 2, it never made it past the draft. He further states how he wished they could make the enemies bigger, but of course it wasn't possible due to the lack of hardware power. Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link was released in January of 1987. The game is a direct sequel to The Legend of Zelda, taking place 6 years following Ganon's defeat. Link is now 16. So, if we do the math...
Oh!
Yes, he was only 10 when he fought this, fought these, and fought that.
Wow! A 10-year-old?
Bad. Not bad.
Right!
Anyhow, Link was shocked
That makes
by the
sense.
rolling crest of the royal family appearing on his hand. Impa then takes Link to a young girl under some sort of coma spell that turns out to be the very first Princess Zelda. Determined to obtain the Triforce of Courage to break Zelda's curse, Link begins his journey. Well, so... yeah, the gameplay. Is it Final Fantasy? Is it Mario? I guess not. Okay, with all seriousness, it feels sort of like a combination of the two. Link has Mario's jumping action, and Hyrule's got Final Fantasy's hub world, not to mention an RPG leveling system also. Despite the fact that Zelda 2 is a far cry from any Zelda game Nintendo has made, I actually had some fun playing it. For one, the game is relentless in difficulty, but it never felt unfair. Zelda 2 mainly tests your skills in reflex and dodging. Every time I got hit, it was clear what I did wrong, and simply had to remain patient to get past it. But But of course, this game has its flaws too, or else it wouldn't be regarded as a failure in Miyamoto's eyes. One extremely annoying aspect was getting a game over. You see, a typical Zelda game would place you at the beginning of a temple after you die. But not Zelda 2. Doesn't matter if you are in the farthest reaches of the hub world. If you die, you go all the way back to the beginning. Also, if you're a fast reader, I guarantee you're not going to enjoy the text speed in this game.
Well, I mean, it's a different style, so.
With the success of the Zelda franchise thus far, what adventure was in store for our hero next? Well, we're gonna have to jump back to an early ancestor of the DS, the Game & Watch. And the man behind these standalone handhelds was none other than the father of Metroid, Gunpei Yokoi.
Wow.
He was inspired from seeing a bored businessman pressing random buttons on an LCD calculator. But the title we're interested in was released in August of 1989 and simply called Zelda. The game was developed by Nintendo's R&D 1, the same team who made the 2D Metroid games. The story is about Zelda being kidnapped by 8 dragons. Link must recover the Triforce pieces to free Zelda. And just in case you're wondering, this story isn't part of the official timeline. While the gameplay mimics Zelda 2's side-scrolling, the formula follows the original Zelda, where you have to fight through 8 dungeons and free the princess. As robotic and basic the game looks, I actually found it a bit addicting. Kinda like Pong or Pac-Man. It was a test of how well you can predict and how fast you can react. I can only imagine how much fun this game on the go was for people back in the late 80s.
Yeah.
With LCD handhelds picking up some popularity, another one was sure to follow, though this time created by a watch company called Nelsonic. In the late 80s, Nelsonic was already very well established and were known for their awesome video game watches. They had a good relationship with a number of game companies such as Sega, Nintendo, and Midway Games. As a result, Nelsonic was able to obtain licenses to many famous icons, and one of these were none other than The Legend of Zelda. The game was released in October of 1989 called The Legend of Zelda Game Watch. There isn't really a story here. Link simply fights through 4 dungeons collecting pieces of the Triforce, and obviously, this game isn't canon. The controls, as you can imagine, are garbage. But then again, I'm sure this was the best they could do on a wristwatch. Though I can imagine these were mind-blowing back in the 80s. Now, if you thought a wristwatch Zelda game was peculiar, then you might find this next item even more peculiar. The Barcode Battler 2. This clunky looking
I never got to play those.
sequel to the Barcode Battler created by Epoch. You probably haven't heard of it because it only caught on in Japan.
Really?
No English units were made. In fact, it was becoming so popular in Japan that Nintendo decided to give them the licenses to create Mario and Zelda battle cards. The video card game was released in 1992 called Zelda no Densetsu Kamigami no Triforce.
What?
Story, as you can guess, is also not part of the official timeline.
I bet.
The game is based on The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Okay, so
Okay.
this game, if you can even call it a game, has you swipe cards into the machine in order to load character stats. Think of it kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh! There are hero cards, monster cards, and item cards. For instance, if you want to heal, you swipe in your red potion, and if you want to attack, you swipe in your boomerang, so on and so forth. Personally though, I struggle to even classify this as a video game, since there's nothing on the screen other than numbers.
I've never even heard of that.
Subtracting. I mean, I might as well just play with the calculator and use my imagination.
Yeah.
Attack! 1,000 minus 1,000! I win! The system can connect to the Super Famicom for some games, but it doesn't seem like Zelda is one of them. Well, guys, that's it for part 1. In the next part, we'll be taking a look at one of the greatest sequels ever made, and a couple of titles that Nintendo would kill to undo. So I'll see you guys there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting us in about that. I never knew about that. I never even heard about that. Like, that goes to show you the stuff in Japan that we never seen. It's there. It is doggone sure there. Let me know what y'all think down below if you want me to continue this. I'm interested in to see what more is going to be talked about with Link and Zelda, history of Zelda, and I hope you guys will be interested in that as well. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all again next time. As such, this has been Master of Sakurai. I love y'all. Have a good weekend. I'm out. Peace.